Honorable Chair, ladies and gentlemen, esteemed adjudicators and worthy opponents, I stand before you as first speaker for the proposition. Our motion today asserts that when an individual declares in bankruptcy, the state should step in to oversee and manage the person's finances for a period of 5 years. We believe this policy is justified in terms of individual rehabilitation, protecting society creditors, reducing repeat bankruptcy risk, and safeguarding systematic financial stability. In my speech, I will present three major arguments. The first is rehabilitation and consumer protection. Bankrupt individuals need structured guidance. Second is recidivism and systemic risk. Repeat bankruptcies impose costs on society. And third is the fairness, social cost, and creditor protection. Managing finances helps restore fairness and trust. I will also preview how this policy can be implemented pragmatically in an Indonesian and global context and set up for a rebuttal of key opposition points. First, declaring bankruptcy is a clear signal that someone's finances have collapsed. Without intervention, their situation often remains precarious. By having the state manage the finances for 5 years, we give them a chance to rebuild in a structured way. This isn't simply punitive, it is rehabilitative. Many bankrupt individuals face poor financial literacy, overwhelmed by debt, and may fall back into harmful patterns. A state-managed program can impose budgeting discipline, monitor spending and debt servicing, and help ensure that they do not re-enter insolvency due to lack of guidance. In Indonesia, while detailed individual data is scarce, we do know that the insolvency regime under Law Number 37 of 2004 has been criticized for lacking robust mechanisms to support distressed debtors, beyond liquidation and suspension of debt payment. Globally, we know that financial distress often precedes repeated failure. For example, research on U.S. firms shows that approximately 15% of debtors who emerge from bankruptcy protection ultimately file again. This suggests without structured oversight, bankruptcy can be the first of multiple failures, not the reset. Thus, the state's involvement for 5 years gives structured support, reduces probability that someone exits bankruptcy only to become insolvent again, and thereby benefits the individual, their family, and their economy. The second major argument is that repeat bankruptcies and financial distress are not purely individual problems. They carry broader costs to creditors, financial institutions, and the economy. As mentioned in the U.S. context, firms that reorganize under Chapter 11 still show about 15 until 80% recidivism rate. On a macro scale, global business bankruptcies jumped 13% year-on-year in 2022 in one report. While that is corporate, not individual, the signal is clear. Insolvency is trending upward when oversight is weak. In Indonesia, insolvency and PKPU, suspension of debt payment obligations, fillings reflect serious financial distress in the business sector. In Q4 2024, PKPU cases accounted for 87.13% of debt-related cases, signaling widespread financial fragility. If individuals repeatedly default, they impose transaction costs, court time, creditor losses, social welfare burdens, and reduce credit access for others. This constitutes a systemic drag on the economy. By placing a 5-year state-managed oversight for bankrupt individuals, we mitigate the risk of them redefaulting, reduce costs to creditors and financial institutions, and enhance overall economic stability. In other words, the state stepping in is not just about individual. It's about this chain effect and potential contagion of financial instability. Thirdly, the motion promotes fairness, both for bankrupt individual and for creditors and society as a whole. Creditors and citizens who lend money deserve a system that ensures responsible behavior for debtors. If someone goes bankrupt and then quickly returns to disorderly finances, creditors' losses mount and moral hazard rises. A state-managed program for bankrupt individuals helps ensure that the fresh start of bankruptcy is balanced by some oversight and responsibility. 5 years is a reasonable time frame, long enough to rebuild but limited so as not to impose indefinite state control. From the societal viewpoint, many individuals declare bankruptcy for reasons out of their control: job loss, medical costs, and economic crisis. Offering structured oversight rather than leaving them to fend for themselves is a humane, solidarity-based policy. It enables rehabilitation instead of dropping them out of the system entirely. In the Indonesian context, improving the bankruptcy regime and protecting vulnerable debtors while not leaving creditors hanging has been a legal challenge. The Law 37/2004 framework is evolving. Thus, the motion balances individual redemption and societal or creditor interest. It is not heavy-handed state control indefinitely. It is a corrective and enabling intervention for a defined period. Before I conclude, let me outline briefly how this could work in practice, and thereby rebut simplistic opposition claims that state management is unworkable. After a legally declared bankruptcy, the individual automatically enters a state-overseen finance period of 5 years. The state or state-appointed agency monitors major financial decisions, large loans, excessive risk, and new debt. The individual still retains control of day-to-day spending but must follow a budget approved by this oversight agency, complete periodic financial literacy training, and submit an annual financial report. We are not arguing for a lifetime takeover of people's finances, just a transitional 5-year oversight to ensure that the fresh start offered by bankruptcy is meaningful, not merely a temporary respite before a second collapse. In today's interconnected economy, both Indonesian and global, bankruptcy is not just a pure personal matter, but one with ripple effects. This House must act. Thank you for listening to my speech.